Hello YouTube and welcome to my new toy review. This time I'm going to show you my custom-made Masters of the Universe Terminator figure. I'm a huge fan of all the awesome Masters of the Universe customs that can be found online, especially the customizers who are able to cast their own figures using the molds they have made by themselves. I think they are hugely talented and I wish I could do the same one day. But until then, I'm just sort of kid bashing figures together, and this what you see here is one of them. I came across this vintage Terminator figure called the Rapid Repair Terminator, and I thought he had a really cool head sculpt. It actually came with two heads originally, but mine was missing the extra head and also I was missing an arm. Now, I've never really been a big fan of the vintage Terminator sculpt. I always thought the figures looked kind of weak, so I figured why not customize it? And what better way to do that than using the vintage He-Man sculpt, which is one of my favorite action figures of all time. So I got to work using a He-Man body as the base body. And just a hint, if you don't want to spend as much as a vintage He-Man figure would cost, you can just buy a Tri-klops figure because you're really only needing the body, and Tri-klops is using basically the same body as He-Man, only his skin tone is a little bit different, but that's not such a big deal and you're gonna paint your figure anyways. So I usually just buy a Tri-klops and start by removing the head, which should be very easy if it's a soft head figure. If it's a hard head figure, I usually just cut it off. It's no big deal, you're not gonna need it anymore anyway. And I was thinking about using the legs of a Trap Joe figure because I liked the way it looked. It looks sort of like a futuristic leathery pants already, but it turns out the Trap Joe figure has a little bit shorter legs, and halfway through I figured I would rather have the original He-Man sculpt for this figure. So painting the pants, I was trying to go for a leathery kind of look, as if he was wearing leather pants like he did in the movie. To achieve that, I painted the lighter gray colors first and waited until the paint dried. Then I painted over with black, with a shiny black paint, and then just with a brush removed some of that paint so that the layer underneath with the gray would show. And I think I managed to get a nice leathery effect for the pants. I really wish I could have changed the crotch piece. I really wanted to use many faces this crotch piece, which is a different one. It's not a furry one like most of the He-Man figures have, but a more futuristic one. But I couldn't find a way to remove just the crotch piece without breaking the figure, and so I had to stay with the original piece. But I painted the belt to this metallic silver color, which I think suits him quite nice, and I figured I would give the same metallic silver color for this arm brace piece here. As you can see, he's got a robotic arm. The inspiration for that was that the original figure also has this kind of robotic arms that show the robot pieces underneath. So I figured if I couldn't use Trap Joe's legs, I will use his arm. So this is a Trap Joe arm right here, and I painted all the robotic parts to this silvery gray, and the skin, I had to find the right skin tone for that. On the other side, I wanted him to have the sleeve of the jacket, so I casted this sort of ridges onto the Masters of the Universe arm using hot glue mostly, and painted it with the same kind of technique as I used on the pants. I think I managed to get the paint look just like it does on the actual jacket part. This jacket comes from a NECA Terminator figure, and also this holster comes from a NECA Terminator figure too. So I think it turned out pretty good. I'm not too good at casting, to be honest, and I didn't really know what materials to use for this, and so I ended up just using hot glue. But I think it's not so bad, so I'm basically satisfied with the end result here. And here you can see just the jacket, which is just your regular NECA Terminator figure jacket that I used. Of course, you need to remove the arms and the head if you want to put the holster and the jacket on, but that's not such a big deal, especially not because the head is removable anyway. The biggest challenge was securing the head on the body, because this Rapid Repair Terminator figure came with a removable head, but the head inside didn't really have a peg or anything. It was sort of this weird mechanism I cannot really explain, but I got this idea from a customizer on Instagram who uses magnets to hold the limbs of the figure on, and it works remarkably well. So I just glued a little magnet on the bottom of the head with some super glue, and I put the other magnet inside the body. It was encased in this blue kind of plastic case, so it stays inside the body. It cannot come out, but it holds the head very strongly, as you can see. And I think this is a genius way of securing the heads, and you still retain the posability, and the head is not falling off at all, although it stays removable, so you can still remove the bandolier or the jacket if you want, and you can just put it back on anytime you want. So here you can see he can actually fit on the vintage motorcycle quite well. He sits very nicely. Of course, he cannot hold the handlebars, but to be honest, the original figure couldn't hold them either that well or at all. So we didn't lose any functionality here. Also, I think he looks great with the vintage John Connor figure just sitting behind him. They pose really well together, even in just some natural poses. And of course, he can also pose with some of the accessories for the NECA Terminator figure, like this huge gun that he can hold perfectly well, and this ammo bag that hangs off of his back is also able to be on. And of course, this all depends on the basic Masters of the Universe figure that I used. This one has a little bit weaker legs, so he cannot really stand with all this weight on. I have to use something to hold him up, like the bike, for example. But still, I think he looks very nice with this. And I just love the way this figure turned out. I think this is one of my best works so far. So I hope you liked this review of my figure. I hope you like the figure itself. If you want to make a figure like this for yourself, it's really not that hard, and I think I just described all the steps that it takes. But if you have any more questions, just feel free to ask in the comments section. Thank you for the watch, and goodbye.